All right, that's Jim.
It's closest to Jim.
They got money.
All right, it being 6 o'clock and a quorum being present, I'll call this meeting to order. First thing I'd like to do is welcome our guest, Mr. Wendell Bailey.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here. Ms. Martin, there you are. You want to introduce your guest here?
Absolutely. This is the Willow Springs High School speech and debate team, so we were going to do a quick little presentation on what it is that we do.
Right. And you'll introduce each one of them whenever it comes time?
Yes. Yes.
Perfect. All right, and then we have our assistant principals, which we don't see that often.
One exception.
Or we have one. I thought
We have two.
We got two, Chris, yeah. And then we've got Josh here in a new
Hold your
role.
applause. I don't know. Thanks for having me. I don't, yeah.
All right. So you have the agenda in front of you, the minutes from last meeting. Are there any changes to the agenda?
We have one change under items for action. I'll be asking the board to approve our policy service with MSBA. It's a yearly re-up with MSBA that we need to do. So I'll be asking for you to take action on that at the end of the meeting tonight.
Now you're done.
All right, any questions concerning the consent agenda? No questions then, I would receive a motion to approve the consent agenda items as presented.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, we'll move right on into administrative reports. Let's start with Mr. Schmidt, and then we'll give the assistant principals a chance here.
Well, one thing on the report that you got in your packet, there is one typo, or just mistake. The NHS induction should be Tuesday, November 8th. I believe it said November 3rd on there, so that's one correction. But things are going good at the high school. We've had a lot of good things going on. Band this weekend took first overall at the Warsaw band competition. So that's all classes, they got first place. And Abby Killow was second.
No, she got
Top.
best solo.
Best solo, that's what it was.
On fluke.
So that's good. FFA and FCCLA did a farm to fork day the other day. They went to the sale barn in Mountain Grove. They went to some grocery stores. They went to Jenny Poor's house and had lunch there, so they had a good time with that. Journalism class has started the live bulletin, which if you don't get it live, you can click on it, but they're doing the bulletin on YouTube, so it's on the YouTube channel. Thanks to Mrs. Wilson and Andrew for getting all that set up. Tennis ended their season. They set a school record for wins. They were 17-4, finished second in districts, lost to the defending state champions, who, from what I hear, may be the state champions again this year. So that was good. We did have Claire Clarkston, who advanced to sectionals. We got our first ever esports victory this year. Our esports team is 2-1 on the season. Our esports coach, Andrew Corson. We participate in Rocket League this year. We started esports last spring and we played Smash Brothers and we tied one match then. And so we got our first ever win this season. And our next match is October the 18th. So if you want to come by and watch them play Rocket League after school, 4 o'clock.
Is it up on the big screen?
The projector.
Yeah.
And one other thing I wanted to mention was We have a student who's doing an internship, Marjorie Sheehan, with Zane Pravet's law firm, and she has the opportunity to go to the Southern Missouri Court of Appeals, I believe on October the 18th, and then on October 25th, she gets to go with him to the Missouri Supreme Court. So those would be good opportunities for her to experience. That's all I've got.
Lot going on. Any questions for Mr. Smith?
I just want to tell Andrew, the word on the street was there was a coaching problems, the reason we lost one game.
It's always the coach's fault, right? When you lose, anyway. Yeah, it's players' fault when you win.
All right, well, thank you, Mr. Cochran.
Yep, so we're rocking along in the middle school. Through our changes in a little bit in our consistency and our discipline, we're kind of getting things smoothed out finally. And I think we're kind of calming down a little, knock on wood. But we're at the same time, we're doing a lot of things that we're trying to have a good time and let the kids have a good time at school. So we've changed our lunch a little bit, playing a little music and doing some activities during lunch that kind of liven things up and allow us to have a little more fun. We had an epic fall sports pep rally. I don't know if you've heard about it, but it was quite the epic pep rally, and we had a really, really good time and did a lot of screaming and yelling and introduced our teams, and band played, and we just had a really good time. Had our teachers on stage and really rocked them out and made them like rock stars. So really having a good time in the middle school so far. Mrs. Hobson and Mrs. Drake took a group of 7th and 8th grade girls to Missouri S&T for a STEM workshop, and all word from them that they had a really good time. They did some glass blowing lab and learned how to blow glass, so that do some different jobs, and that's probably a pretty high item job in different places. So I know, you go to Silver Dollar City and see that too. So, it's pretty interesting to watch. But they got to participate in that. They got to also participate in the genetic food modification lab and doing some things with that and working with the genetics of growing food. So they had a really, really good time and came back with a lot of good information. Of course, our sports are going wide open right now. In fact, our fall sports are on their last week with volleyball. I think their last home match is tonight, and they've had some success, and 7th grade has come a long way in being successful and actually winning some matches, and so we're really proud of how far they've come, starting from where they were. And 8th grade, they've been really, really competitive and won some matches. Our football teams, 7th grade, doing really good bunch of kids there and working hard, playing well. I'm not sure what the record, they may have lost one game. So they're doing really good. 8th grade, they have won some, but they've lost some too. So, but they're, right in the mix too, being competitive. So we're proud of those groups and everything they're doing. Of course, band transition's going well, and Mrs. Forbes and Mr. Good are doing a good job. I was able to slip down there this last week and listen to the middle school bands, and they're doing a really good job, and they let me come in and work with them every once in a while, and so that's always fun too. Just some upcoming events. I think we're wrapping up our first round of teacher evaluations and meeting with those teachers, and just allowing us to set some goals and some expectations for the classroom with our teachers. And 5th and 6th grade are going to a play in West Plains, just kind of promoting friendships and how to build relationships and sustain relationships. So that's coming up Wednesday afternoon. They'll be going to that. And then, of course, we got our student-led parent-teacher conferences coming up, and we're all prepared for that. Our grade levels are kind of setting their own ways to be able to conduct those conferences, and So allowing a little freedom between our grade levels to set those the way that they want to see those go. So with the, you know, the difference between 5th grade and 8th grade, there's a huge difference there as far as the student and how those are to go. But they've got a really, really good plan in place, each grade level, so we're excited for that. Getting ready for our PD Day coming up on October 31st, and got a lot of good plans for that. And then if anybody wants to join us, Middle School Fall Social is November the 3rd. So we would like a lot of help there and a lot of fun times there. I think we've got some line dancing planned and some lessons, line dancing lessons, and a lot of things that are planned there that'll be exciting too, so.
Get Dr. Spence in there.
That's it.
I'll be there. Now, will you be there?
My daughter won't let me go.
Yeah.
I think that's all I have.
I'll let you embarrass him.
Yeah.
Who presented that play that the 5th and 6th grade went to?
That they're going to, I'm not even sure it's a production company.
It's at the Civic Center at West Plains.
Okay,
It's a production company out of, I think it's out of St. Louis, that goes around the schools and does that.
okay. Who's sponsored it? Do you know?
I don't know for sure.
I was just curious.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, that's good. With that topic there, it's appropriate, it's in West Plains. Mr. Swallow, or anybody else got any questions? Mr. Swallow.
Yeah, everything's busy in the elementary on a daily basis. You know, we're alive and kicking down there. You know, we got kids doing all kinds of fun things. Celebrations that we've had here recently. We just recently had kindergarten through 4th grade family night. That was a big success. That was on September 27th. If you were able to come to that, you saw that there was a lot of involvement, a lot of parents, a lot of kids there, a lot of staff. We've also added a new flagpole outside the building, on the east side. That's Will Clarkson's project that he's got going, and we've got 4th graders responsible for hanging the flag and taking the flag down on a daily basis. So I think that's a good thing, teaching them, you know, some good things, good responsibility there. We just completed round 1 of iReady and dyslexia training. Got those completed, got that first round done. We also have just recently celebrated, well, we did in September, at the beginning of October, or towards the middle of September. Elementary staff characteristic was cheerful. The person won was Nikki Wake, and then Elizabeth Anderson won for October, which was punctual, which was the subject for October. So those 2 teachers were celebrated. Those were surveyed out amongst the building, and those were the winners for those months. We just recently recognized our first Teacher Proud Tuesday of the school year, which was Colleen Mabe. If you saw that on social media, or if you've got that out there, you know, she's a great asset for the district. She does a lot of things for us, and she was rewarded for that on Teacher Proud Tuesday. So we're very proud that Colleen Mabe got that award. You know, like I said, we're busy in the elementary. You know, we've got a lot of groups doing a lot of different things, a lot of kids doing incredible things at different grade levels. Upcoming events in the elementary, this Wednesday, October 12th, is Fire Safety Day. 4th grade will start that right off the bat. So those kids are excited. They're already talking about the fire truck coming and hopefully getting to spray the hose. So,
Yeah.
you know, that'll be a fun day.
Yep.
Fall field trips are in full swing. We're getting ready to send 2nd grade to the Pumpkin Patch, Mountain Grove, Spring Hill on Friday. Kindergarten's going to go to Twin Pines here coming up. 3rd grade's going to go to the Laurel Ingalls Museum, Wilder Museum in Mansfield. I think it's next week, the 25th. So our field trips are starting to kick up in full swing. The Russ Tuttle Assembly's next week. That is for multiple grade levels. That'll be right off our elementary grade levels. It'll be first thing in the morning. So we're looking forward to that. And then our parent-teacher conferences, which will be obviously October 27th. Some groups do student-led conferences, some do normal parent-teacher conferences. So, and then on a side note, Bus Safety Week is also next week. Elementary will celebrate those bus drivers. Mrs. Brower does help with that, so we appreciate her helping. Obviously myself and those types of things, we celebrate our drivers. And those kids get a joy out of giving our drivers cards and treats and goodies every day. So, yep, we're busy at the elementary, and we've had a ton of celebrations so far, and looking forward to having more coming up. So,
I heard through the grapevine, we were told at the fire department that you need to bring your swimming trunks.
temperature's gonna be up.
That's what we hear.
Myself or Mr. Rogers?
Good bowl.
He's not here.
Okay.
The kids will really love this.
We'll get them out.
For the kids.
It's for the kids. Yeah.
Don't you medicine. Yep.
Any other questions? Okay, who's Russ Tuttle?
Russ, that assembly, I think all grade levels are going to it. It kind of, trying to keep
Give me that.
appropriate wording, yeah, if you don't mind.
Yeah, so Russ Tuttle and Mr. Schmidt, you sat in on a session with him last year, and what he specializes in is teaching kids how to be safe online. And any of you that are parents or have any dealings with kids know that that's a very dangerous place right now for our students. And he's all about giving the kids some tips to keep them safe and away from the evil people in the world that would get online and try to befriend them. And
We should have information coming out. We're gonna have a community assembly next Monday night at 6:30 in the new gym. So we want parents, we want police officers, anybody in the community that may have influence on kids to come and hear his presentation.
What day was that again?
Monday, the 17th at 6:30, and then on the 18th, he'll be presenting to students.
yeah, it should be really beneficial.
Absolutely, all that we can do in that area is important.
I would just tag on a couple of things with that. October is National Principals Month, and we appreciate all of our principals, these guys, for coming tonight, and our other 3 principals as well. They're all new to their positions this year, but it's been a great transition, and I lean on them a lot, and I know our staff does as well, so we appreciate our principals during October and every month, and also the Teacher Proud Tuesday that Mr. Schwalm talked about. It's going to be an every Tuesday thing. It's going to rotate through the buildings, but it's just a chance for us to really highlight one of our outstanding teachers. And we're going to put that out on social media, tagging our legislators in that as well, just to, it's kind of a spotlight on public education as well, just to let the public know what an amazing job our teachers are doing, and highlight some of our very best. And
Tomorrow's the middle school. So.
tomorrow's going to be middle school, so we'll announce that. So be looking for our Teacher Proud Tuesday nominee for this week.
Great. All right, no more questions. We'll give the floor to Ms. Martin and her crew.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Would you like to let me know?
Just tell me when you want to advance your slides. You guys are all done.
Okay, this is the high school speech and debate team, as I said earlier. We actually have just started our season, so we haven't actually had any public speaking opportunities before tonight, so this is gonna be a new experience for my girls. I'm really proud of them. I'll just go ahead and introduce each one of them by name. I'm Ms. Martin, this is Macy, this is Lily, this is Emma, and that's Brooke. In just a moment, they're gonna tell you each what it is that they specialize in, because speech and debate is a really unique area where not everybody is doing the same thing. Nancy, slide, please. We've also partnered with the National Speech and Debate Association. This would be our second year. We partnered with them during COVID because we weren't going to have access to tournaments. If we didn't, they were providing the online platform that we needed to host virtual tournaments. And that was the only way that we could continue to participate. And we've really been impressed with our partnership with National Speech and Debate Association since then, so I've continued to keep us a member. They provide resources, scholarship opportunities, all kinds of things, not just student resources, but also resources for coaches as well. So we're gonna continue that trend, and if you'll go ahead and advance to the next slide, please. So as you can see, we have a lot of competition categories. So it's not the same as a sport where everybody's playing the same game and they're all on the same quarter field and they're all running the same plays together. This is not how speech and debate works. So being a speech and debate coach is a very unique thing to coach. It's got a lot of different categories, as I said, and some of them are acting based and interpretive events. Others are going to be public speaking events, so we're talking about the actual speech part of it, and of course there is debate. We also have storytelling and radio speaking, can prepare you for speaking like actually on the radio. They have to complete a segment, which I don't have any radio speaking participants this year, but usually it's a pretty popular one. They actually have to come up with a 5-minute spiel for radio that includes like news and weather and things like that. So it covers a wide variety of things, and each kid is participating in their own separate category, and I have to be well versed in every single one of these categories, and I have to be able to coach each one of those kids on an individual basis. So I have a class that is very different from what you would normally think of whenever you think of a typical classroom. And I'm gonna let these girls tell you about each of the competition categories that they're participating in, starting with Macy and Emma, who are my duo interpreters.
I'm Macy Pearson, freshman, and me and my partner Emma, we do dual interpretation, which is where we have to memorize a script from a play. We cut it down to where it's underneath 10 minutes, which is our length, close to 10 minutes as possible. And we have to interact, but we can't face each other, we can't make eye contact, and we can't touch one another. And we go up there and we act it out, and we try our best to do under 10 minutes, and I will let Emma tell you the rest.
Hi, I'm Emma King. It's my partner Lacey. She actually just said.
It's an interesting category, isn't it? Because you don't have the opportunity to make eye contact and interact in a typical way. And so I imagine you found that really challenging.
Yeah. Like if you're going for a handshake, you can't touch each other, so you have to find a way to act like you're handshaking, but you really can't. That touching?
It is a very, very unique category. It's actually my favorite to coach, as they're finding out, because I tend to hover a little too much sometimes. But it's also something that they have to be very, very self-driven, which I'm going to talk about that more in just a moment. So I'll go ahead and pass it off to Lily, who is one of my oral interpreters.
This is my second year doing speech and debate. Last year I did original oratory and poetry. Original oratory is a 10-minute speech on a political topic that I did last year, which was gunning over communication. Though it was a controversial topic, it was a very hard topic for me to have last year. Information was hard for me to have. It was my point of view. Like this year I am doing informative. Informative is just how it's said. I am doing a 8-minute speech this year, and it's over bananas. I am doing a topic over bananas this year, and it's just informative. It's to inform each other about just pretty much how hard it is to grow bananas, and just the dark history that it has on our economy. So to this day.
And we'll go ahead and pass it off to Brooke, who's actually doing original oratory now.
As you know, my name is Brooke Newell. I'm a freshman this year, so this is my first time doing oral interpretation. I chose OO, which is also original oratory, for my topic. I did art. In art, I will be talking about the problems in it, and I will also be talking about poverty and the importance in it. Like Lily said, I only have a 10-minute speech, and I can't use any form of note cards or presentation. I have to remember this all in my mind.
Yes, and I really like the topics that these girls have been writing about. You think bananas is not that interesting, it's just bananas, but actually it is really amazing, the history that's behind bananas. And Yeah.
both of our lives.
It really has. It's impacted not just our economy, but it's actually degraded economies
yes.
of other countries. And Brooks, I absolutely love because hers is not just talking about, oh, why art's important, we should have fine arts programs. It's talking about the injustice that we're seeing in the art world and how we need to change the way we think about art. So I really love what speech and debate has to offer, the way it gets kids out of their normal comfort zones, their ways of thinking, and the way it introduces them to the real world, as well as just teaching them the basic skills that they need for communication and public speaking. So I absolutely love coaching this, and I'm very honored to do that, and I have an awesome team this year that I'm very, very proud of. And if you'll go ahead and advance to the next slide. So as I said, it does teach us a variety of communication skills for a variety of settings. I would also say that this really builds self-esteem for kids, to be able to stand in front of all of you, to be able to stand in front of judges and their peers, and to be able to speak their opinions, and as it says, in healthy and civil ways. I feel that civil discourse is a skill that we are losing in this country, and I like that I have the opportunity to help kids with that, to be able to find unique ways to express their opinions and to do it within the correct parameters and format, so that way they can do well in competition, but also in life. And then of course, because I offer so many different categories, each one can find something that brings out their own unique talents. And do you girls have anything to add to that?
Last year I did 2 different categories, and then this year I'm also going to be doing 2 different categories. I will not be doing poetry. I learned that the hard way last year.
So found that that's not one of your unique talents.
That is not one of my unique talents.
Okay. Would you say that it's built your self-esteem? Or
Yes, and I do feel like that someday it will help me with many job opportunities, building my self-esteem and being able to talk to people more. I might not be able to do it that well right now, but I feel like I will be able to do it a lot better in the future.
I think you're doing great right now.
Yeah.
So we pride ourselves on hard work and perseverance and self-motivation, all the things that you see listed up there, cooperation, quality. I want to really emphasize the self-motivation that these girls have to have. I should say these young ladies, these are not little girls by any means. They are really doing some amazing things because, as I said, I can't do a whole class activity because what applies to one category does not apply to another. So that means they have to be really driven to teach themselves, to figure out ways to learn, to collect resources, and to talk to other kids in other schools that are participating in the same categories and get tips and pointers. I have conferencing time with each one of these girls, but when I'm conferencing with another student, I can't help those that might need help at that moment. So they have to figure out ways that they can just problem solve for themselves. And they do an excellent job at that. So I would really like to emphasize just how driven these ladies are. And do you have anything to add to that? Would you say that was a new experience for you,
Yes.
not having a teacher to say, first you do this, then you do this, then
Very
you do this?
independent.
Yes.
Yes, it taught me a lot last year, my first year, and I'm happy that these girls are doing it freshman year.
Yeah, that helps.
I made sure that Macy did it, and then these 2 girls did it, and I am very happy that I encouraged them to do it because it has helped me through a lot last year, going and being able to step up to adults and talk to them about different controversial ideas and just speaking my mind as a young woman. It has helped me a lot.
Absolutely. I believe I have one last slide. So this is the icon that's on the school website whenever, this is on willowbears.com, and when you click on that, it will actually take you to our webpage. You should be able to click on it, and the hyperlink should work. We'll see if it really does. So if you want to know more, if you're interested, you can always go here. We have a frequently asked question page and an about page, and it lists, you can just scroll down. We tell you about all the different events and categories.
Inside joke, yeah.
And you will see pictures of past teams that I've had and some tournaments and things that we've done. So are there any questions for us?
Couple comments.
Sure.
I've read many times that the #1 fear in life is not dying, it's public speaking. Although, knowing Scott and Jeff, I wouldn't believe that. And the second thing is, you really talk about bananas for 8 minutes?
I really really do.
Really?
And I can't go under, I can't go over, I will get docked down points.
Do you see a clock when you're doing that?
Oh, no, no. You rely on yourself, you rely on your information that you were told, and to me personally, the judges don't know what I'm talking about. So the first time go around, it's always gonna be a rough patch. But progressively, you learn that you can get through that time management. It's really, people will stress about the time management, but I would say that remembering your words and understanding the flow and not just pausing, I would say was the hardest thing for me to learn.
When you say pausing, you mean like forgetting what
Forgetting what you're gonna say, and then there's a long pause, and then it's awkward, and then the judges they just stare at you.
Yeah, because they're not allowed to have any kind of visuals, no cards, no PowerPoint, no nothing. This has to be right out of their own brain. This is a challenging event.
I sound like they're here, somebody.
Yeah, I would think.
We'll have to come back and once they
Do what?
master
You did it for 8 minutes and only said they're yellow once.
I would segue more into banana pudding and.
We're all gonna be Googling bananas. Yeah, the dark history.
That's right, dark
I
history.
would have never put the phrase.
So, who picked your topic?
Me and Miss Martin. Well, Miss Martin
Okay.
actually came up with the idea. We've never really thought of, anybody
Creative.
talking about a fruit.
Yeah,
And to express that the judges are going to be very astonished
yeah,
about the idea, which I'm very excited about to represent this Friday.
very creative. And you picked your own topic?
I picked about art.
Yep, and you picked it, yep.
Yep.
Now, you said there art and poverty, is that all one topic tied together, or are you doing two?
In art, you have, in OO, you are given like 3 topic points. And so I put on one topic point about like people who have connections and people who don't. And then another talking point, I'll be talking mainly about poverty. And then the other talking point, I'll be talking about why art is important and just wrapping the whole thing up.
But you say, when you talk about poverty, you're not just talking about poverty in general, it's how it applies to the art world, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Excellent. Yeah.
So when and where is your competition?
Actually, our first competition will be this Friday, but because COVID kind of destroyed our speech and debate program, I'm not gonna lie, it really did. And it wasn't just our program here at the high school, it was actually across the state, probably across the nation. I know West Plains really suffered too, Mountain Grove. Basically every teacher that I've spoken to at the last conference that I was at all voiced the same problem. So we are all kind of starting from scratch and rebuilding our program across the whole state. I used to have about 20 kids or so, or 15 to 20 on the team. Now I'm down to these 4+1 who is actually at a cross-country meet right now. But I feel like we are growing and people are starting to see the benefits of this once again. It was really tough for a couple of years, but I feel like we're getting there. And this first tournament, because of that, is going to be strictly observation. I can't really conduct my team in the same way that I normally would. Normally, I would have a lot of veteran participants who would just take the newbies under wing and would say, here's how it's done, why don't you do some observations with me, let me introduce you to some people, here's some tips and pointers. So I would get extra help coaching, because again, it's very student driven. And I use my students as kind of extra coaches, and I don't have those anymore. So this year we're just going to do observations. They're going to ease into it slowly and see what it's all about. And then in November we're going to go to our first competition, first week of November.
And we did a class with the 8th grade last year. And I think
Yeah.
that's what helped.
That's where we.
Yeah, we've
that's
been-
what helped.
Yes, so thankfully Mrs. Yost in 8th grade has been wonderful to participate. She also teaches a speech and debate class that is just one quarter, I believe, and rotates. So every quarter she lets us come in and present and talk about it. And then 4th quarter, after the seniors have all graduated, then I actually just take her class from her and I say, you're not getting it back. And I just get to teach her 8th grade class, and it's been really beneficial, and that's where these ladies came from.
All right, thank you, Ms. Martin. Very impressive.
Okay, so if nothing else is needed. Thank you all very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Owens, you have the floor. Tell us about CTE.
hold our applause.
That's a tough act to follow, right? And I feel underdressed looking at these.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
And I wish I'd done speech
Thank
class
you.
now that I'm here. Now that I'm here, that would have been really convenient. So, I, first off, I haven't had a chance, I want to thank you guys, we got a building. I'm pretty excited about that. I've kind of felt like we had some classes that may be potentially homeless, so I am glad to have, get them in a building put in. And we are currently putting together the resources for 3 new programs in 23, 24, and kind of the process that we arrived, and I say we as a collective group, me, Marty, Nick, and Sharon Patton in the high school, is I felt it was important to evaluate what every other career center in the state or consortium of other schools, what they are offering. Look at that compared to what we currently have available to our students, and compare those classes and see what new opportunities that we could give our students. And so we took those and developed kind of a survey online that we sent out to all of our high school kids. And that survey consisted of some classes that we knew that were already popular, that our students already have a choice in taking. And Google
I know you
kinda,
can't read that, I'm
yeah,
sorry.
that kind of cut that off on the bottom, but essentially this is a mix of courses that our students already have an opportunity to take, and then new opportunities that were presented that we haven't had in the past. And we got some really good feedback on these different options, and obviously there is a million different course options out there. What kind of dictated my thought on this was, first off, things that I thought would be relevant to our area, and also things that we could gather a lot of community support to support that, and what the student interest was to match that. And so after sending the survey out, Mr. Hummel and Mrs. Wiles were good enough to let me borrow their class for 15 to 20 minutes at the end of every block for a week. And I essentially explained to the students what they're looking at here, answered questions that they had in different categories, and then also was looking for feedback of things that possibly I hadn't thought of or that wasn't presented anywhere else. And kind of from all this, you can see, the first half of this graph is obviously a little busier, and some of these courses we're already getting served. Auto body, is one that we're already getting taken care of at South Central. We have health science is another one that we're getting taken care of. Some of these other ones that were not an option in the past that scored really high, and that not just on the graph, but actually talking to the students, and there was a lot of questions, a lot of interaction, was a criminal justice law enforcement program, basic aviation with drone flight was another one there, and then carpentry. That's one area that just out of a needs base that we have struggles getting all of our students facilitated at South Central, that we felt that was a solid option for us. So beginning with all that, what we currently, what I would like to focus on as far as resources for these areas would, the first one would be a construction technology class, and we should have a kind of a slide on that. But essentially the objective of that'll be a 2-year course that will combine some classroom instruction with the majority being hands-on learning. Students will have exposure to floor, wall framing, roofing, siding, wiring, insulation, interior finish, etc. And this can be accomplished several ways. My first thought on this, one of the first things that I think would be really unique in a lot of ways, and I know that South Central utilized their program, is the MODOC facility that we just stepped into. We do need to do some work inside of that. We need to do some renovation there as far as moving some things around to set that up for our courses in there. South Central kind of went through the same process at their center, and they utilized their carpentry class to do that. And talking to their carpentry instructor last year, he said one unique thing about that is that the students took a lot of ownership and pride that they were building their facility per se. And then in the future, continuing when students come in, kind of that program took that as this was their flagship. This is something they took pride in that they created, and it gave incoming students kind of a visual of what is possible with that. So this particular program, there's several different ways this can go. I think there's a lot of opportunity for large-scale projects on campus that we can integrate this construction technology program in and still facilitate all of these small areas that I feel like is important in the construction world. There's projects in the community. Residential construction obviously comes up quite a bit, and that may be something that I think we possibly could look at in the future. I will be, honest, I don't feel comfortable starting with that. I don't think that's a good move right out of the gate to step into building houses for the community. You know, I think we can possibly get there. I would feel more comfortable if we can polish this program a little bit before we step into that. And I know that comes up a lot. I've been approached with that a lot. And I do think that would be really neat in a lot of ways. And we've got, like I said, there's several opportunities. There's I know there's possibly some opportunities through the foundation to integrate with some of the projects they've got coming in the next 10 years and in the community. So really excited about this. There's a lot of student interest here. Certification wise, you know, something that we can get our students stepped into will be an OSHA 10, which is 10 hours of OSHA training, and any commercial job that you step into, any employer, that's one of the first things that they have to cover is that. So that is something that is very relevant to an employer. NOCTI is essentially, that's just an organization that helps align student or classroom curriculum with industry standards in the workforce. So that certification is the same thing. That's recognized by employers as being a certification that aligns classroom activities with their particular area, whether that's construction or whatever area that may be. And then possibly, I've got a question mark at the end. I've been in communication with the Carpenters Union in Springfield and working out a way where we can get credit hours for some of this classroom time to boost these students into, if they want to start internship through a union in Springfield, you know, to that. And we're still got a meeting in about a month with their rep on that. So first course, next one will be criminal justice. So 2-year program, you know, it's a general introduction to the American criminal justice system with an emphasis on law enforcement. Students will investigate U.S. constitutional law and the Missouri Criminal Code, as well as other aspects of law enforcement, such as professional ethics, evidence procedure, crime scene, and accidental investigation, types of law enforcement equipment used in industry today. There will be a strong connection to industry, and students should be prepared for dealing with real-world scenarios and mature and professional manner. This actually kind of come to me as a little bit of a surprise. I didn't really think, I don't know, I included that program in the survey because there was other career centers that were talking about how explosive that program has been and how interactive it's been with their local agencies. So I threw that in there, and we actually got a lot of response on that, on the survey. And then talking to the students, there was a lot more. That's actually one area that there was a lot of questions in and a lot of response in. And so kind of been doing that and doing some research. I reached out and to Missouri peace officers, and they directed me to an instructor at Crowder College in Neosho, which apparently has from what I understand, kind of the flagship course of criminal justice law enforcement, Dr. Orrin Barnes. And I've been in communication with Orrin several times and actually got a chance to visit him a couple weeks ago. I think with Orrin's help, I would really like to model our program after what Neosho was doing there. They're having tremendous success with that. And this is again, as far as strong connections to the industry, locally, it's been a little bit of an eye-opening thing to me since I started kind of having conversations about this, the amount of needs that there is here. I was a little unaware in law enforcement and criminal justice, both, you know, what a need there are here. And so, you know, as far as credentials, what the students can receive out of this is a public safety telecommunicator. So essentially dispatch work, that's something at 18 that they can achieve that. Police One Online Academy is some online training that is relevant to law enforcement agencies. And then Missouri Law Enforcement Skills and Knowledge, you know, that's a big one there. I always had in my mind law enforcement was 21, like, you know, that you 21 to carry a gun, so that was just it. And so I had early on kind of a little bit dismissed this, but through some through doing some homework, it's been eye-opening to me how many positions there are that has nothing to do with being 20 or carrying a gun that does fall in criminal justice and law enforcement, and how big of a need there is there. And again, this is something locally that has there's been a lot of support for. And then the last one, you know, is a basic aviation with drone certification. 2-year program, you know, that'll give the students the opportunity to explore and become familiar with aviation, as well as practice and learn the skills necessary to be a safe and effective remote pilot in their chosen field. The goal of this program is to prep the students to test for their Part 107 commercial drone certification and also the private pilot's aeronautical knowledge test for ground school. So, and I'm still working through this. I feel comfortable on the, on the drone side. That's kind of, there's 2 different things that I want to bring together with that. I mean, obviously it does all fall under aviation, but there's 2 fields there. On the ground school side, you know, where I'm still getting some of my questions answered about that, and I'm sure Wendell probably could help me with working through that part. But this is another area that again, I was a little shocked. I didn't realize in the pilot world what a shortage there is there, and starting 10 to 12 years ago, continually every year, how much more of a shortage there is. I just thought you get on a plane and they take you there, but apparently that's it's a problem to get people to show up and do that. And the drone world has been another thing for me personally that has been eye-opening in the sense of how big of a need there is in the community and different areas. My first initial thought was recreation, like you're gonna take some YouTube videos and, you know, but that's not the case at all. You know, that's very relevant and a lot of different businesses. Any questions about any of this or suggestions, compliments? I don't know.
Back on the criminal justice.
Yes.
That 2-year program. At the end of 2 years, kind of degree or work that they get out of that, I mean.
So,
I follow
like
that.
on the criminal, several, and there's actually, I've only listed a few here, there's multiple different certifications they can work through. These, I know for sure we can do, and this is the 3 that the course in Neosho, Dr. Warren Barnes, this is what he suggested as far as your bang for your buck for your student, putting them in a good career, or stepping them into a good spot for their post-secondary career. One unique thing about his program is that's his high school program, that they get 26 college hours recognized for that, which is phenomenal. That's a huge, and I haven't done enough research of mine to know if we can, essentially, if we can get that set for our students, that is very attractive to me, to put a student in a position when they're stepping out of high school to have 26 recognized hours in a program like that. That's awesome for the students. So these certifications, Adam, you know, are definitely obtainable at 18. But then again, like I said, there is room there. I think even, you know, if you want to continue into education in that field, you know, I almost think a bigger value to this is if we can get those recognized hours. That's big. That's huge.
I have a couple comments, and one is
Yes.
that I see a lot of the need and desire for drone technology in farming, especially you go into those big row crop country and places like that. I mean, just getting on a tractor and riding in circles isn't
Yes.
how it's done anymore. And so I'm sure you're seeing a lot, and I don't know a lot of the ins and outs of what exactly all is done, but there's several colleges in Kansas that, I mean, that's what they
They're
do.
pushing. I've seen the same, and I had it talking to a woman over the weekend that they had just bought a drone to spray their crops, and they're trying to find someone to either train them to run that or just find someone to run it for them. They said, we'd be willing to pay someone to do it. We just bought the equipment and don't have any idea what to do with it. But it'll spray 40 acres in an hour, is what she kept saying. And that's what, and nobody has to, you know, we can do other things. So that's been a little shocking to me, you know.
I see, I know some other businesses too that do like drone seeding and things like that,
Yes.
that as far as whether, you know, be crop or just grass and pasture type things, that's, you know, a really beneficial thing. So I'm excited to see that kind of take flight, if you will, and see that going forward.
That joke right
Yeah.
there.
And so I'm excited to see that. And the other thing I was gonna maybe ask that you had mentioned on the construction side
Yes.
of things is that not necessarily pushing forward yet in the residential building and things like that. So do you see that as like doing kind of more like remodel things on the front end and doing as far as like involvement of around the school facilities or things like that, and hey, we need something done with the plumbing or the electrical or
Yeah,
whatever, kind of doing.
Not so much that. I mean, like I've thought back over the last few years of projects that would have been, I think, very relevant to the student in all these areas that we've had on campus. One, starting with our new facility here. The second one that I wish was a year behind is actually like our weight training facility we're talking about. I would love to have someone come put the shell up and then have our students come in and do the holdings, because in that you're doing framing, you're doing finishing, doors, windows, trim, plumbing, wiring, all those areas are covered, and that's on campus, right? I mean, it's secure, we're not going anywhere. Our storage facilities, like at the bus barn we had built a couple of years ago, that would have been a really good opportunity to utilize a class like this. And I don't wanna limit it to on campus only. I don't wanna come across like that. There's a lot of other opportunities.
Sure.
I had an individual tell me this weekend that Christo's house is getting some funds to build some mini houses to help battered women and children. I thought that would be a unique thing. I mean, I don't think opportunity will be the problem.
No.
Maybe if that's a better way to put it, I think actually not enough workforce to be the problem to match the needs there.
Yeah.
So, but I don't wanna, I just wanna be cautious about entering the residential construction world and building houses right off. And from a financial standpoint, not a real cheap game to get into right out of the gate either.
Yeah.
There will be some incurred cost with this, so building a house on top of that, is another conversation too, so. And I hope that answers it. Like I said, I get that question quite a bit, so.
No, for sure.
And I know you guys probably will get that question too, so.
Where are we at on number of kids? I mean, are you seeing numbers where you can start building classroom sizes?
Yeah,
or-
absolutely. Like you, obviously, construction technology, we know, obviously from looking at our students that are going to West Plains, what those numbers would look at. And I know like in courses like that, I think we'll wind up, our numbers will be higher than that, and actually my son pointed out something I didn't even consider. He said, well, first off, Dad, there'll be some kids that wanna take those buses, they don't wanna ride a bus every day. I hadn't even, but, so like, he is in carpentry this year, he's excited at thoughts of staying on campus next year to get to be able to work in the same field. That being said, I think classes like this particular course here, I think our numbers will go up from what we've even seen in the past, and that's an area that we've always had a really strong student count in. Some of the other areas, as far as like the aviation, drone certification and the criminal justice course, the criminal justice, to achieve what Crowder's doing, if we model our program after that will take, essentially that's gonna be a 2-block class. Just very similar to what we're doing at South Central. To get enough educational hours in that program, that's gonna require 2 blocks to do that. As far as your drone certification and basic aviation, I'm still working through that to know, I still have some questions exactly how many educational hours we need to put in front of the student to achieve that. The drone certification is not that much. When I say that much, I mean easily achievable by our students in 1 year. But I've still got some questions on the ground school side. I don't feel confident enough to say this is exactly how many hours we need to put our students in front of. As far as the numbers in those, yes, we've got, obviously looking at our survey of the results, their emails are attached to everyone that sent that in. I don't think we'll have, I would like to limit these around 15, and I think some of these will wind up having to maybe move a kid or two around to make that happen, so.
How many schools do we reach out to for any of this, or are we just talking in-house still, or?
As far as,
We're in, this would be for our
This will be,
students right
yes,
now.
yes, starting with our students.
Yeah.
Maybe I should explain that, yeah.
I've got a question.
Sure.
So we're talking about three classes, we're talking about students, we haven't talked about numbers.
Cash, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, no,
Have we got
we
that
haven't
far?
quite got, no, let
Do
me
we
work
know
on that a
what
little more,
Do we
yeah.
know what it's gonna cost in general, any ideas there, and then do we know what how we're gonna fund it?
Well, my funding solution was to come and talk to you guys. So, no,
We're not there yet.
we're not there yet,
Okay.
but we will be soon. And I know that is obviously a big part of the puzzle that we gotta put together. So, but that is coming. I can't give you exact, I would be a little afraid to even put rough numbers. One thing I like about all of these programs right here is actually, I think from a cost standpoint, we can do this relatively, I won't say cheap, but compared to a lot of the other programs, if you look at like a welding program or a machining program, anything like that, you can rack up a tremendous amount of money right off to step into those programs. These, I believe, from a financial standpoint, we can get into reasonable. And also using, again, part of my logic on this, and Marty and Nick and Sharon also in the high school, was there's a lot of support. I mean, community, I've been really amazed. I think you can utilize a lot of community support, and some of that might be financial, in these programs, so.
I have one question.
Fire away.
So, and this may be kind of both ways here. As far as the financial part of it,
Mhm.
you mentioned college credit hours for kids. What does that cost the kid, the child, to obtain those the college hours? I mean, I've heard, and I don't know anything about it, you know, whenever it comes to high school stuff.
Right.
Is it kind of similar to a college, or is this going to be something that could be possibly, yeah?
I don't know how they do it in Crowd.
I don't either, so I'm
we have dual credit right now
Sure.
in the high school with our partnership with West Plains and OTC, and it's thirds.
Okay.
So the student takes a third, the college takes a
Okay.
third, and we take a third.
Okay.
So it's significantly,
Sure.
you know, it only costs
Oh,
the
for
student
sure.
a third of what it would in college, and I would hope that it would be something
yeah.
like that
Okay.
but we make an agreement every year with
Sure.
the college on that.
Sorry, I didn't, I had
No,
no
that's
idea.
fine. That's
No,
a good
that's a
question.
great question.
That's a good question.
Because I
Yeah.
didn't know.
And definitely something we wanna.
Obviously,
we
it's
wanna
cheaper
work
for
towards.
them to
Right.
do it
Oh, it's a-
in-house
it's a good
here
deal.
than
Yeah.
getting out on their own.
high school, then
Get on the
college
bus.
process.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well worth it.
Yes. Sure.
Okay, great, thank you.
Well, thank you, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So, why not
Yeah.
together?
That's why I was kind of looking at both of
And I
them.
don't know what Crowder, you know, again, that's we will work through that. That is attractive to me. I just, you know, that's a
That'd be
lot.
huge.
I mean, it's huge for a student, and especially, you know, whenever you have students that are looking at, you know, a lot of people categorize CTE in the area that these kids aren't going to college, and that frustrates me a little bit, because this does lead into post-secondary education, so this isn't just strictly for, the CTE thought it's not just strictly for kids that's not going to college. Some of those students will continue on. This is just part of the way they get there too, so.
Okay, great.
So
Pretty
what's,
excited. Go ahead, sorry.
what's next? What are we gonna do,
After we get
no,
these
I mean,
done.
to get to where we are ready to start these classes?
So we're, I mean, currently, one of, you know, the instructor is a big key to all of this. You know,
Right.
we do have some resources in-house that possibly can move around for some of these categories. Some of these, that's what I'm concerned, I wouldn't say concerned, that's what I feel like that the focus is pretty strong right now, is finding the key people for those areas, Mac.
Yeah, and possibility of starting a class in the spring, next year,
The fall of
Fall.
next year.
fall?
Yeah,
Yeah.
in August, we would like
Yes.
to have it
Yeah.
open, and we'll work towards scheduling
Yeah.
in the spring, so hopefully, you know, Josh can come back in April or so
Yeah.
and tell you,
Right.
these are the numbers for these
Yeah.
courses.
Perfect,
Yeah,
And we'll
and it's
have it
hard, you know,
lined up and
like
ready
you're
to
saying,
go.
as far as numbers, until you give students those
Yeah,
options, you
yeah,
know,
they've gotta schedule it.
they, you know, it's actually hard to put a number on that. One thing I will say that I think was unique was kind of working through the survey process and then actually speaking with the students in their class. And predominantly those, is Mr. Hummel and Mrs. Wiles, those classes were virtually all freshmen and sophomores. You know, but it got them to start thinking about, okay, we're gonna have some more choices, and some of the choices we make now in school, you know, this could actually help us step into a career. And it really got them pretty excited. It's a kind of a unique thing. I enjoyed it from the standpoint that a lot of times students don't get a chance to somewhat have a vote, maybe is a good way to put it, or, you know, kind of a say in what courses that they want made available. That was kind of fun from my standpoint, to give students some options to look at. And once they understood and realized that this is something that our voice kind of matters, or what we're interested in matters, they took interest really fast. You know, it kind of amazed me far more than I thought. So.
Why do we, I thought when we started talking about this, didn't we talk about other schools and all that? We just have enough kids, this ourselves, that we didn't have to reach out?
Well, that could be down the road.
It could-
That
yes,
we
I
look
think-
at that. This is just for starting level, and then, I mean, I don't.
Yeah, I don't see any reason, we have the resources to match that, you know, staffing and materials, you know, that in the future we could look at receiving sending schools, sure.
I just kind of want to say that we appreciate you taking the lead on this. It's a pretty exciting thing I see for us as a school district and the community going forward, that I think we can all sit around and say, like, once we come, you don't think about it as much when you're a high school age kid maybe, but when you come into being an adult and you think about, man, if I knew how to do some wiring stuff around my house, whether you take that on into a career or just a skill set that you have for life, it's an awesome opportunity for our kids and the community. And so thanks for kind of taking the reins on this and taking the point. And I think it's something that it's going to be a really good program for us as a school district.
Yep, I think so. Any other questions for Mr. Owens? All right, thanks, Josh. Before we go on, I want to back up and apologize to Marlena. I skipped over you a while ago.
I just thought I.
No.
No apologies needed. I don't have a whole lot to talk about our report. We're just neck deep in our self-assessment year for special education. Every 3 years, we go through a pretty intense file review where we have to submit, based on our student population of special ed students, is how many files we have to submit, and we have 20 files to get raked over the coals from the State Department. So that's where we're at, We have several teachers doing great things in our department as well, participating in some professional development opportunities. Myself and our 2 process coordinators, we attended our law conference a couple weeks ago, had some good information presented there, staying up to date on compliance, and then I have 7 teachers that are attending the letters training, which is part of the science of reading curriculum. They're going to that, and then I have a few that are doing beginning special ed teacher training. So my first and second year special ed teachers, I think I have 6 in that group that are going. We are also, I have 6 paraprofessionals that are doing the Pathways for Paris program. That completion of 2 years. We teach some courses in-house, and then they also take online courses through MSU out of Springfield. At the completion of 2 years, we'll have 6, if they complete the program, 6 certified special education teachers at no cost or little cost to them.
Excellent. Yeah, that's a great program. Well, I really appreciate you coming every month that you can, and there are a lot of good things going on in our SPED department, so I appreciate you. All right, the athletic training.
The athletic training facility update. We need to come up with a catchy name for our building, but we did extend the bid date. The Collie Annex. I like that. We extended the bid date to Friday, October 21st. I was trying to get that bid in before the meeting and probably did not give that enough time because I know there are some people working on bids, so I'm confident we're going to get bids, but we needed to extend that a little bit. So I apologize for not having a bid for you tonight, but that'll have to wait just a little bit. We did, talking with Brad Seiler and Robert James and some others, decided to extend the length of our building by 10 feet. It was a 50 by 100, now it's 50 by 110, and move the ceiling up to accommodate a drop-down batting cage. The batting cage issue, if you're not familiar, it takes up a lot of space, and space is really important in a training facility. So it was important that we get it up off the ground, but to do that, you've got to have a little bit of a higher ceiling. So that did raise the estimate to approximately $385,000. That's up about $25,000 from what it was last month. So still using ESSER funds, we're still well within range for that, but just wanted to kind of update you on that. And these are the latest sketches. You'll see the 14-foot ceiling that's been added there on the outside. It's going to be a long structure, and then that's a little hard to see, but you've got your locker rooms and kind of how that would be set up with the space in the middle for the batting cage and everything else.
So that's a in-house estimate without any bids, correct?
Correct.
That number?
Yeah, yeah. So just wanted to give you an update on that, and again, hopefully we'll have a bid for you next month.
All right, any questions? At this point, then let's go on to the roofing.
All right,
schedule.
roofing schedule. Well, you know, if you've been to the store and everywhere else, everything is going up. And so this, and I know you can't see that, and I can barely see it on my computer screen, but I will tell you what those numbers say. You'll notice this was the old roofing budget and the old roofing schedule. Styles Roofing called me shortly after I took the position and said, hey, we're gonna have to revisit that roofing schedule because the price of materials and everything else went up considerably. So they gave us a new estimate. This one is your new estimate. You might be able to read that a little bit, probably not. This is over the next 3 years. So this year, this current budget year, we do not have any roofing projects. This is an off year for us, which lines up really nicely because we have that lease on the lease loan on the middle school, high school edition. This is the final year for that. That's $280,000 that we've committed to that for this year that will come off the books next year. So that is a big plus as far as the budget goes for next year when we won't have that. So the next 3 years, prices have increased. It was $1,007,552. It's now 1,485,200. So materials gone up almost $500,000. They'll need to go ahead and order that in the near future to go ahead and complete the work next year. So they want to make sure the board is still wanting to follow this schedule and this plan. My recommendation would be to go ahead and follow that plan. Roofing is something that, I mean, that's infrastructure that it's not flashy and it's not something fun that we necessarily want to do, but it needs to be done, and it's going to have to be done sooner or later, and prices are probably not going to go back down. So I think we have the budget ability to do that, and my recommendation would be to approve that new budget, the new roofing schedule.
Is that for the 3 consecutive years, or is that for the next project, the next roof?
That is for all 3 years.
It's gone up $500,000.
Yeah.
And we're gonna procure the supplies for all 3 years?
Yes.
And
Yeah.
those will be locked in, and we
Right.
won't see another increase like
Correct.
this?
Correct.
I didn't hear, what's the total, you got a total figure for 3 years? What
Total
was it?
figure for 3 years is just about 1.5.
I can't read it. Okay.
Basically, it was,
Okay.
for the 3 years, it was at $1 million, it's now gone up to 1.5.
Okay.
So it's gone up, yeah, a lot.
Well,
So, I mean, we don't have to like it, but I think that's probably where we're at, if you still feel. Now, we could, you know, we can take a year off, you know, we can risk it by pushing this all back another year and hoping that material prices come back down. But again, it's an infrastructure thing that it's gonna lead to, we've already got our fair share of leaky roofs and maintenance issues that are pretty much ongoing. So these are things that need to be done.
Hard to teach when it's raining on you.
Yeah. I've heard.
I'm assuming our maintenance people agree with,
Yeah, they
This
do.
schedule.
I mean, they've agreed with the plan, the schedule.
Yeah.
The only thing that's changed is the dollar amount, and that's out of our control.
but like our on-campus maintenance people
Yes.
are
Yeah.
on board with
Yeah,
this.
Brad and-
Believe that this is
Yeah.
what we need to be doing, yeah.
And that's the normal procedure to order these things, like, I mean, essentially for the last project in what would be, 26 or 25, 26?
I think so.
3 years out is kind of the norm on that?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think I think it's a good thing if we can get them locked in 3 years in advance.
Yeah.
I didn't know that was a possibility.
Yeah.
And is this like a normal thing we do every so often?
Well, this budget started, or this cycle started in 2018, 2019. And so we had, and Josh probably knows more about this than I do, honestly. But we had some roofing issues. So Styles came out, they did a big survey of all of our roofs and kind of laid out a plan of, you know, this is gonna end up being an 8-year plan of fixing, because we couldn't afford to do it all at once. So they staggered it year by year to make sure all of it gets up to where it needs to be. And we're unfortunately about halfway through that. COVID hit, prices went up, and so we had to go back and kind of redo it.
So will you have a contract, this will be something that's locked in solid,
Yeah.
or is it gonna be?
Yeah, he's waiting on you guys to say this is okay, so that I can go back
Oh, well,
to.
wages went up.
Yeah, well.
We need another 200,000, you know, in 3 years from now.
I'll read it
The
closely.
fine print.
I'll read the fine print.
We kinda seen that recently.
Yeah. I don't know what you're referring to. Yeah.
I Just a little.
So that's all I really want to talk about roofing tonight, unless you guys have other questions.
All right, any other questions? Then move on to the Willow Fairs app.
This one's a little more fun. Community engagement is a big piece in MSEP and all the other things that we do. And a lot of the schools in our area have started producing apps for their school, and that's something that we felt like this would be a good time for us to kind of get on board with that. Right now we have School Messenger, and you guys are probably familiar if you've got kids in the district with School Messenger. It gives you your weekly phone call or canceled school. We have our student information system, parent portal. We have the school website. So we have several modes of communication, but what the app can do for us is put all of that together in a format that people are used to, popping their phone out and getting on the app. I would say the chances of anyone getting on our school website from their phone is very minimal. I've tried, it's not a fun process. The company is Aptigee that we're looking to go with. Communication, and that's important, so all school info available. So that includes menus, sports scores, contact information. Pretty much any kind of communication you can think of that you need from the school is going to be there in a pretty easy format. Andrew's working with the company to kind of get all that set up, and we have the say in how it looks, and more decisions than we've ever thought possible with an app. Looking at a December rollout for that would replace School Messenger. It's a little more expensive than School Messenger, $7,000 to set up. We can use ESSER funding for the setup, and then it'll be about $10,000 annually, and that's up considerably from the $4,000 we pay for School Messenger. But I believe communication's a priority, and I think that's a really good way to engage the community in what we're doing at our school. Andrew, am I missing anything on?
Well, I'm really looking
Yeah.
forward to it because, from a back end perspective, it's going to unify everything. So, right now we have the Facebook page, we have the website, we have School Messenger and all stuff. This will be a one-stop shop. So, if we put something into this platform, it'll put it to Facebook, it'll put it to the app, it'll put it to School Messenger if we want to send it out that way. It'll really unify all of our, like he said, communications, and so this will really help us to send out a consistent message on everything. So everybody, whether you're an older person that uses Facebook, or someone that uses the app or something. Yeah, I said that.
Wow.
I have an Instagram too.
You just offended half of our audience.
I don't have Instagram.
I don't know.
An older person
Continue.
that does
We
this.
don't
But
wanna get
it'll
into that.
send the same message out to everybody, and so I think that'll be really handy.
So it'll, through that, you updating the app or whatever, it'll put it on these other
Yeah, the
platforms.
website will have, so we put a article that says, hey, the elementary is doing this thing. It'll go on the Facebook page, on the website, on the app, it'll be everywhere. And then if we wanted, we could even send out a push notification that said, hey, Willow's doing this. Not intrusive, it's not text message or a call, but a little thing that people wouldn't check on.
One of the features I liked about the app was it has a Facebook type scroll where you can post all of your school stuff without any kind of comment or like feature. It's just a scroll of all the stuff going on in the school. You can promote what's going on in the school without worrying about the drama that rises from social media.
Will it take the
like
place
that.
of the
Yeah.
Remind app through sports? Where they
No,
do
probably
practices, or
not.
that'll
That's
be
more of
separate?
a coaching, one-on-one kind of communication there. So.
But it'll redo the website to be in a similar format to the app too. So those who still like the website can still go there.
So you're paying for the initial setup with ESSER money, and then it's gonna cost $10,000 annually. What's the $4,100?
That's what we
the
currently
messenger
pay for
costs
school
now.
messenger.
So that goes against those,
That goes away.
$10,000
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah.
So it's only
So-
really gonna cost us about $6,800.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's something we'll just need a budget for next year.
It's costing $5,800 more than
Yeah.
Yeah.
back to setup.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I'm excited about it. I think it's gonna be really good.
Any questions, Coach Collins?
I'm saving my questions for Wendell.
Do you need to provide any information about the policy review? Or we'll just do that when it comes time for action?
Yeah, I'll
Okay.
just to give a little blurb about it then, but
Okay.
it's nothing much.
All right, and comments from our guest. Mr. Bailey, this is your opportunity.
Before
Hang on.
Wendell
Yes.
talks,
Oh,
if you don't
yeah,
mind
no.
real quick, I forgot to mention something. Sorry, Wendell. I forgot to mention something because I forgot, so now I get an extra minute. We did roll out last week on National Teacher Day. Dr. Spence and I had talked about doing this and worked with the building administrators. Last year I wrote a grant for teacher recruitment and retention, and part of that grant money was, all about keeping teachers happy and the things that we could do to make their day a little bit better. So part of that I wrote in the grant was to have like a snack cart for every building. And so we rolled out for the first time on National Teacher Day last week, and I made a snack cart for every building that was equipped with all sorts of snacks of every kind and a cooler that was stocked with favorite drinks and things. And the building principals and assistant principals took that around to classrooms a couple times during the day on National Teacher Day. We heard a lot of really positive things about how that went, and it was appreciated. So we still have quite a bit of money to spend out of that, and we'll set up a time again with the building administrators when they want to roll that around again for our teachers. So I think it was very well
Every
received
Monday?
and appreciated. So.
I have a friend that works in Bakersfield, and when their teachers and staff write a grant, they get a percentage of what that grant totals. Just throwing that out
Oh, well, I
there.
did not.
Just throwing that out
It was all about the teachers for me, so, yeah. I may have had snacks.
You just gotta feel it.
You're gonna tell me what I got grant for?
Well, we've got something else on the agenda that you had a big
Yeah.
part in.
That wasn't a grant, that was just because I didn't spend enough money
You found
last
money,
year.
so that's a good thing. Yeah, Marlene is very good at that. We appreciate it.
Yeah, well, thank you, yeah.
Are you leaving?
You're gonna have to be on the ball or you're gonna miss this. It'll be over before you get into it. Up here on your board, it says the mission is to provide visionary leadership. Adam Webb was on the board when we were here about 3 years ago, and we said vocational education is very important. And finally, we're seeing that come into play. I'm here to talk about educating the community. Now, there's a big community out there. There are a lot of people in this community. Some are young, some are old. Some don't agree with public schools. They're called homeschoolers. They're different. There's also Christian academies. They don't agree with public schools. There's a brochure that they have that says strictly if you have a school that denies the existence of God, then it's at least antagonistic or maybe atheistic. But the point is, there are different people in the community other than public schools. Now, are we interested in educating the community? What is it about the community that we think we can't reach? I go over here at First Baptist Church on Monday, and I drive in that driveway, and it's absolutely full of cars and people from all over. Jade Esser drives from Eminence every Monday to be at the school, at the First Baptist Church, to talk about homeschooling. Homeschoolers are kind of like a box of cats. You put one in a box and another one gets out. They're hard to get them to do all of the things at one time that you'd like for them to do. You know them as well as I do. And the question is, how can we approach the community with educating the community. How can we educate the community? I'm sure that there are ways that we can do that. I was excited to hear the speech and debate program tonight. Dwayne Benton and Tetrick, is it my? Wayne's son.
Oh.
Wayne's son. National speech and debate winners. Dwayne Benton's on the next judgeship below the U.S. Supreme Court. Alito, Supreme Court Judge Alito worked for Dwayne Benton. Can you do it out of Willow Springs High School? Hell yes, you can do it. But you've got to think out. Someone said we need to think out of the box. Somebody told me that Sunday morning. I was leaving First Baptist Church, and this guy comes up to me and says, we got to think out of the box. Well, he didn't actually say we've got to do it. He said, you're always doing that. Are you ready to think out of the box? Are you ready to let homeschoolers into your high school band? Are you ready to let, or does it take a 6'9" basketball player before you're willing to get a homeschooler into your program? Does it take an athletic program before you're interested? Or are you interested in what's our great Jackson, our teacher that teaches calculus?
Mr. Jackson? Russell?
Russell Jackson. Are we ready to let homeschoolers go to school with Russell Jackson because they can't get calculus at home? Are you ready to do that? Are you ready to have a visionary leadership and say, hey, we can do things that are better for everybody? So that's it. Like I said, I knew it was going to be brief and I was going to be out of here before you got around to saying what am I talking about. And Coach Colley's got a question, but I was up at the Missouri legislature, and we passed an appropriation bill for southeast Missouri and southwest Missouri, and we got them paid by credit hour. And before that had been cost plus. I got the first appropriation for MSU at West Plains. It was only $42,000, but it was precedent because it said for SMS at West Plains, $42,500. It got the top floor on the Kellett Hall down there built up. It had never been done before. Can we do things that have never been done before? You bet we can. When I was state treasurer, we were #1 ranked in the United States of America on the percentage of funds invested. That's because I sold the float. I sold the float. When the money was left over in the bank at the end of the day, I sold it to New York for an overnight agreement. E.F. Hutton did that, but they didn't have a contract, and they got kicked out for doing it. But the point is, when Marty and I were in Washington, D.C., I was on the education committee, and we had those title funds, Title I, Title II, Title III. That was all came through our education committee. And Marty and I were there in Washington, D.C. and saw that happening and helped them happen. So what do we do now? We got $100,000 in an entrepreneurial fund for MSU at West Plains. Are they doing anything with it? Hell no, they're just sitting on it like that. So is there an opportunity there? We have $2.5 million down the street here in a program called the Willow Springs Community Foundation. The reason we have that is because we have 31 houses, then you're familiar with them, out in the community, and they've got a 25-year payout on them. In other words, if we rent them for 25 years, then they're ours. 31 of those houses, what are they worth each? $100,000 each? That's $3.1 million. That fund doesn't have anything to do with it except invested in this board and in the education of our community. All we've got to do is do it. And so that's the end of the pitch, that's the end of the speech. But it's called visionary leadership. Get a vision. Not just doing what we did last year, but what do we want to do next year? I called Mac and I said, why can't we let these kids in the band, these homeschoolers? And Mac said, well, we haven't looked at that. We haven't talked about that in a long time. I think is what you said.
Close.
Can we do it? Don't tell me that it's what's it called, Misha? This is top page on Misha. Don't let anybody tell you you can't do it because of Misha. It says right here, top page, suggested optional guidelines. It's up to you. Suggested optional guidelines. That's it. It doesn't cost any money to have me here.
You're the kind of guest we like to see visit us.
Free?
Yeah. Well, yeah, clearly when we are a part of a community and mean to do everything we can to benefit the whole community. And so your point is well taken, and I can assure you that we will discuss those opportunities.
That's a weak answer.
Well, it's the best I can give you now.
Well, it's not good enough.
I didn't figure it would be.
Yeah, you need to engage the homeschoolers and work with them in some sort of cooperative agreement so that they can be better educated. Like that, it's going to take a cooperative agreement. And like I said about the socks, the cats in a box, Dwayne Benton, not Dwayne Benton, Joel Hines says you'll never get them together. Because if you got 12 of them, they'll have 13 ideas. And you won't be able to, it'll take a proactive campaign to get them involved. And I don't know what you'll do about the Christian academies. That's a different world that what do they call it? Rote memorization. Somebody sailed the ocean blue in 1492, and that's how they teach that. What do they call that, Marty? Rote.
Yeah, memorization.
Memorization, and then they go to.
I don't know that that's how they, I'm just clarifying that.
Well,
I don't know that they.
That's
do
a
that,
weak
but-
answer also. You
I'm all about weak
get
answers.
right aligned with the weak answer program.
Yeah, we're trying.
So it's going to take leadership. It's going to take some doing before this is going to happen. And you're probably going to have to provide that leadership. You're the go-to guy in this crowd.
All we do is give weak answers.
He's got the best beard too.
Yeah, he does. Thank you very much for having me.
All right, Wendell, thank you. Thank you.
A smattering of applause.
If there are no other comments from the guests, we'll move on to items for action.
We'll just clarify our two items for action. The first one is for the purchase of a school vehicle from Bailey Chevrolet in the amount of $50,500. That's some more funding Ms. Barker found for us. We've sped as required more vehicles of late to transport students, and we need to add another vehicle to our fleet. And Marlena found some funding for that, so we appreciate that. And like
Keep
for you
digging,
to
Marlena.
approve.
I do.
She's the golden admin there. Yeah.
And keeping everything we have still, right?
Yes.
We're not getting
Yeah.
anything
Nope.
else.
Nope, just adding.
Okay.
And do we need to specify through Bailey's, in the motion?
Our board secretary thought we did.
Yeah,
Okay.
I've got that in there now, so.
Unless you
want me to
The other motion is to approve the MSBA online policy service and the MSB policy agreement for the 22-23 school year in the amount of $3,479. That is money very, very well spent. So I would strongly encourage us to continue that policy service with MSBA.
okay, for the first item there, a motion be in order to approve the purchase of a school vehicle from Bailey Chevrolet in the amount of $50,500. So, Brent. Motion's been made, second?
Second.
Second, Jeff. And been seconded, all those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, moving on to the next one, a motion would be in order to approve the MSBA online policy service and the MSBA policy agreement for the 2022-23 school year in the amount of $3,479.
So,
Adam and Jeff. Love it. Motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor?
aye.
Those opposed? All right, then, we will then need to move into executive session, so I would receive a motion to move into executive session.
So moved.
Okay, we'll do this by roll call.
Aye.
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 Thank you, guys.
And we're now back in regular session. I would receive a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Don't tell me, I don't wanna hear it.